Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to yet another episode of Cool Talks. And today's guest is a very special guest, a very acknowledged, renowned, famous influencer. Yeah, one of the top 20 HR influencers. Before I bring him live to my channel, I would like to give you some background, and you keep guessing who that might be. So, today's guest is a digital HR and employer branding expert. He is a distinguished Acceleri Alumnus Awardee, one of the top 20 HR influencers, and his blog has been selected as one of the top 20 HR blogs. Um, he has, to his credit, almost 35,000 followers on LinkedIn and other social platforms. Well, when I was going through his profile, I was kind of intimidated by his success, the awards, and the kind of achievements that he has had so far. He worked with amazing organizations like Deloitte, Philips, Satyam, Flipkart, Dell, and now I am excited to bring him live in Cool Talks and knowing what is behind the success of this individual and who he is at the core. Well, I will link the social media links where you can follow him, the Twitter link and the LinkedIn link in the description box so that you can follow him and learn from him. And so let's dive in. Let's see what gets co-created today in this authentic conversation with one of the top 20 HR influencers.
So just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
I just want this to be an authentic conversation so that,
Absolutely.
you know, I and the people who will be watching this will get to learn how you got to where you are and also who you are beneath that success, beneath the social media person that we know, the influencer, HR influencer, top 20 HR influencer, branding expert, you know, great laurels that you have to your credit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm actually kind of intimidated because of the exceptional track record that you have, but I'll give my best. Yeah.
Please don't be.
Yeah. So, what do you think are your top three achievements that you're really proud of in your life?
I don't know. I think getting into XLRI was one big achievement. I wasn't. I mean, I was fairly above average academically, and so I kind of did something offbeat. I did a hotel management graduation, and then worked in hotel sales. Didn't really figure out where my life was going because people kept telling me, you are a people-oriented person, you understand people, but those days we didn't have that much exposure to what you can do. So, and I grew up in Lucknow, so didn't have exposure of what Bombay or Delhi people are exposed to, and so I kind of wandered into hotel management, moved across the country to Manipal, which is in coastal Karnataka, came into touch with different people from all over India. Here, while we studied in an English medium school, but we used to keep talking in Hindi amongst ourselves. And I kind of always was loved writing. So I topped my school in English, and but spoken English, I think, happened because I moved across the country, and not everybody spoke Hindi, and and then I wandered into hotel jobs, then a sales job, uh, and then I kind of thought that what am I doing? I'm not really enjoying, and then I thought I'll do an MBA. The day I decided the MBA was the last day for uh, uh, submitting CAT, so I missed the CAT.
Okay.
The other option was the Xavier admission test, and for some reason I didn't. I kind of felt drawn to the personal management, industrial relations, as it was called then, now called the HRM course, rather than the general management course. And and I remember I enrolled in a coaching in Lucknow, and somewhere, and then I gave the exam, got into Excel, and I couldn't believe it. That with at least 3 month preparation, I got into XLRI. So I think that was one big achievement. The second achievement, I don't know, the kind of work I did with Philips and Flipkart. Employer branding was typically very new. People still ask me what is employer branding, and so being amongst the first people back in 2014 and 13 to do that role, I think that was a pioneer. And of course, at some level, being it's not an achievement, but I'll say the whole social media thing happened because I started early. Before the term social media existed, I started blogging because primarily in my first job, my role was in knowledge management. And I've always kind of been drawn to these, things that are not very mainstream. And when I was doing knowledge management and researching, somebody said there are blogs that can act as knowledge management. And I started reading up on what blogs are, and then I started my own blog back in 2002. And then, so that's being lucky enough to start where I did, and being consistent led to this whole, you could call it achievement, but I think I just was at the right place at the right time.
That's very humble of you. What's the third achievement that you're really proud of? Two you have said, or the blog one?
I think the kind of roles I did at Flipkart and Philips,
I see.
Yeah. Being amongst the first people to do employer branding as a using digital and social media.
Yeah.
Because typically HR people don't wander into these roles.
Yeah.
That is, I think, was a big achievement.
So what I have been following you, and I have a sense of who you are, but I see that you're very different from the normal typical HR professionals that we come across.
Right.
Is it by chance, or you love being unique and different, or it is something which naturally happened? How is it like?
I think at my first when I joined what was then called Satyam, now Tech Mahindra, my I joined in the learning center. So uh, training and development is place where I naturally gravitated. And my boss said, would you be interested in a role in a knowledge management group,
Mhm.
which is not a typical stand-up instructional design delivery or uh, behavioral skills kind of thing. And I then called up my uh, professor at Excel, and he said, there aren't any, and he had, uh, and I remembered he had given a project on knowledge management to somebody, uh, a dissertation to some student had chosen knowledge management, and he was the guide. So I said, should I do this? And he said, absolutely, because not many people are doing it,
Mhm.
and whoever's doing it are technologists, and they're approaching it from the technology perspective. So as a uh, HR person, you will understand the uh, people aspects of why people share knowledge or don't share knowledge, and you'll understand the processor rather than the technology behind it. So go ahead. And I think at some level, so I after that, and then the whole blogging thing started. But after that, I also typically moved into a traditional training management. I did a stint with a training vendor where we used to go out and deliver trainings on innovation and team building. And so I've done also uh, OD kind of bit, little bit of OD, little bit of HR generalist business partner roles. And then I started being a freelancer. And because uh, 2 3 organizations approached me as saying, how do we use blogging for sharing knowledge amongst employees? They're basically talking about internal blogging. So
Yeah.
how do you blog within an organization? And then I realized I've kind of become known for this. Let's start. So social media consulting wasn't a term then, so I started calling myself a blogging consulting.
Okay.
And uh, also was doing traditional behavioral trainings with quite a few firms.
Mm.
ICICI Bank, I was on a empaneled trainers with them doing training for frontline managers and middle level managers. So yeah, and then what happened was a friend of mine was also a blogger in the marketing domain, and basically by that time I had two different communities. One was the physical community I would meet,
Mm.
and people you work with or people you come across in your alumni meets or conferences. And there was this whole other group of people whom you know virtually, whom you're reading every day or whenever they are posting uh, blogs. And so one of them was this guy who was talking about marketing, and he was with the Tata Administrative Service, and he went to Georgetown University as a Yahoo fellow to do stuff, figure out social media there. And he was coming back to India, and there was a PR firm that asked him, why don't you uh, start a social media company as part of our company? So, and then he approached me saying, I don't want this to be only marketing focused. I understand you could use social media for employee engagement, for attracting employees, for maintaining alumni relationships.
Mhm.
And so I was the first HR person to be a social media consultant, I think back in 2009, 2010.
Mhm.
And after that, again, worked with uh, did a project with another social media consulting company, thinking of how they could set up a employee engagement practice, which was a 6-month project. And then Philips was looking for somebody who could do, and the HR head of Philips approached Abhijit Bhaduri. Abhijit Bhaduri, I had a help with in his first book when he said, "How do I promote?" But he was writing his first fiction book, sitting out of US, I think Philadelphia or somebody, where he was working with Colgate Palmolive. And he said, "How do I?" And he talked to the same professor of mine that I mentioned earlier, because they were good friends back in the early 90s. Abhijit was a person at the Tata Management Training Center in Jamshedpur, and my prof had just joined XLRI then. So they're more friends. Yeah. And he approached him saying, "How do I, market or promote my book in India sitting out of US? I don't know." So he talked to this prof of mine, Dr. Madhukar Shukla, and he said, "Why don't you talk to Gautam? He is a blogger. He might be able to tell you how to use blogs." And then, so that's how Abhijit and I know each other. So in Philips, the HR head was asking Abhijit, "You writing about all this blogging and social media stuff, who can help me leverage social media stuff for employer branding?" So Abhijit said, "Talk to Gautam." And that's how I became like amongst the first. And we did an interesting couple of 1.5 years work there. And then I moved on to Flipkart. And as Flipkart called it talent branding. So it's basically the same thing, managing. And then I moved back to Lucknow because my mother wasn't well. And I said, I can do freelancing, consulting again from anywhere, I guess, much before the pandemic. And because my daughters were in, the older daughter was in class 10, I thought it was a good time to move. And we spent 1 year. My mom was kind of not keeping well. So we had 1 year with her in Lucknow. And my dad had passed away in 2008. So
I'm sorry.
It was 2018. My mom passed away. I moved here in April 2017. So we had 1 year along with her, And so I said, if I can work from anywhere, whenever a client calls me, I'll go there. So, right. And then the whole pandemic thing started in 2020. Then I realized, everybody's realized now everybody can work from anywhere. So that's been the journey. I'm not sure if I answered anything, but I kind of just wanted to summarize.
No, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And this brings me to the next question about your childhood, actually. Like, how was it? What is the fondest memory that you have about your childhood?
Fondest memory, I mean, we have an extended family here in Lucknow. So spending summer nights sleeping on the terrace with cousins and everybody, or getting together for Rakhi, or the Bengali festival called Bhai Phota. And, of course, Janmashtami was a big thing in my maternal side. So everybody would come. My mamas would do pujas. So basically while being an only child, having
you were the only child? Okay. How is it like being the only child?
I mean, I never felt it, because every weekend or every second weekend, we would meet all these cousins of mine. And the other pleasant memories are, my dad worked with Hindustan Aeronautics, going to the club, traveling by the HAL bus to school, So it wasn't one school bus. It was like we had bunches of students from every school of the staff, and it would
I
go
see.
around the city dropping people off at various schools. So you kind of got to know people from across.
Hmm.
So you had school friends and you had HAL bus friends.
Right.
And uh, then other big memories, was I topped my school in English,
Yeah.
and then uh, I've never really thought about it earlier. Till class 5, 6, I was a fairly average student. Then there was this teacher of mine called Mr. VP Sharma. I have no idea where he is, but in the parent-teacher meeting, I mean, somewhere he grew very fond of me, and he told my parents in the parent-teacher meeting, uh, this student of mine will be, an asset to society. I don't know why he said that, what he saw in me, but
Wow.
that kind of gave me a boost. And then class 8, I started. So, uh, we had studied at the ICC board. ICC has like
Mm.
English is
Right.
big focus in the ICSE. So a lot of creative writing essays. Remember once class teacher from this thing kind of pulled out my essay, which was more like a creative writing. You had one paragraph and then you had to finish the
Mm.
story types. And he
Right.
said, this is a great example of great writing. So somewhere, I was thinking I'll become a journalist. Um,
Okay.
so I ended up becoming a blogger, which is like journalist in some way, or I'm still relying on my writing.
But there is a correlation, isn't it,
Yeah,
between journalism and writing? What
correct.
do you think?
So somewhere, my daughter being a journalism student,
Hmm.
and somewhere I said, okay, this is getting. She's living my dream.
Okay, right. What are your regrets in life? Do you have any, first of all? And if yes, what are they?
um, if I had stuck to the plain and tried and tested HR
Mm.
ladder, I might have more money.
Okay.
Because
Hmm.
it's a very uncertain life to be a
Freelancing.
consultant,
Yeah.
and following up payments with clients, uh,
Mm.
is and paperwork. I hate paperwork. I
Mm.
I wish I was part of some organization that could take care of all the paperwork and stuff. So
Mm.
there are good and not so good part of being an independent consultant.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's a very valid point actually you raised. So, what are the good side of being a freelancer, and what are the not so good side of being an independent consultant or freelancer?
Uh, you spend a lot of time, and I mean, uh, say there's some project that's exciting,
Yeah.
and you spend a lot of time working on a proposal, send it across, and then you don't hear back, and they say,
Mm,
"Oh, there's slowdown, we're cutting back,"
mm,
or the person you're talking to has left,
mm,
and somebody else has come in their place, and their priorities are different. So and you juggle a lot of balls. Some
mm,
proposals are going out, some delivery is happening.
mm,
Uh, am I right? But the good part is, there are some great clients you work with,
mm,
you know, who pay on time and are clear what they want, and you don't have to talk to the assistant manager, HR, sometimes the
mm,
management. managing director himself can contact you thanks to Twitter and LinkedIn. And so those are the, it's a mixed bag, but overall, I'm not sure whether I'll fit into a corporate setup. It's been too long.
Would you like to go back to the corporate?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you kind of do the initial bit and then hope that they can carry it off. But the good thing about a corporate is you can see through the whole implementation, and you can see a lasting change if you're there for 3-4 years. You can start initiatives, see them to completion. Here, you're as an individual and not part of a larger, consulting company. You're mainly doing the educating part or doing the strategizing part, not really involved in capability building so much, especially in the case of, say, leveraging digital skills for HR or employer branding.
Yeah.
And so that's the drawback of being an individual consultant. You never know whether people are capable of carrying that ball down the road.
Yeah, that's true. What is your vision?
Vision? I don't know. I just want to kind of, at one point of time, it was about taking these HR people, shaking them up and saying, there's leverage digital. Now, of course, it's kind of common knowledge. So at some level, it's also about HR has such varied capability across organizations. Some organizations are doing very cutting edge, thoughtful work, but a large number are doing just administrative tasks or focusing on how to save money and worrying about budgets. And it's not also their problem, it's also what business leaders want. And that's kind of frustrating for me too. So kind of focusing on people and telling HR that there's this whole employee champion role that people have forgotten by being so busy on focusing on business partner roles. That, partnering business is, HR always wanted to have, 20 years ago, we had these conferences where they say, how can we be a part, get a seat at the table?
Board. Yeah.
And now HR has got the seat at the table, so they've forgotten the people, or people have become, so this whole glut of layoffs that we're seeing is, or this whole craze of hiring too many people when the going is good, and then suddenly realizing when the slowdown comes, I don't need so many people. So that, I think, is depressing.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's a vision or not, but I just hope organizations, leaders, and HR people focus more on the people at the front end, that involve them more, leverage their insights. Somehow, leaders think only they have insights, and frontline people don't have any insights. I think it's the opposite. Frontline people have more insights. You just need to ask them.
Yeah. Right. This is beautiful. I really appreciate that you touched upon this thing. You mentioned about people champion. That's what I think is the vision that you're mentioning, that the HR professional should be like this. So, if you can narrate little bit about what, in your opinion, is a people champion in today's workspace.
Um, Somebody who can sense what employees are feeling
Mm,
without, so I'll tell you, mostly now with the whole digital technologies, hopefully a lot of the administrative tasks that I used to do as a HR business partner would be reduced. So how do you, a people champion or employee champion will focus on understanding what employees are feeling
mm,
and conveying that to managers without really needing to do a survey every time or
mm,
some kind of and then also telling somebody who guides employees through uh, what capabilities they should build,
mm,
what careers should be built. Right now there's this whole thing of the digital technologies or artificial intelligence will guide each person
mm,
also, but there has to be a HR person to validate it,
mm,
and somewhere also by doing so creating a culture of
mm,
by re-looking at systems processes that come in the way of creating a great culture.
mm,
So the culture, as I keep saying, is actually the brand.
mm.
If you convey the right culture that you have,
Yeah.
I mean, and if you convey, then there'll be less attrition.
Mm,
So
true.
if you are a competitive sales organization,
Mm,
you should convey that uh, externally so that people who are non-competitive
mm,
don't really get disillusioned if they're selected.
mm,
You hire the right kind of people, people who are the right fit,
mm.
rather than focusing on hiring the best people, because the best people might not be right people for that culture.
Right.
And if you are aware of what the culture is, and if the culture is something you want to change or the business leaders want to change,
Mm,
then what kind of people do you look for,
mm,
and conveying that so that an employer brand, uh, as my favorite quote is a filter.
mm,
It keeps the uh, people who are not right for the culture out, and
mm,
people who are you know part of the culture in. But if the culture is changing, then you try to understand what kind of people I should be hiring, what kind of people I should be promoting.
right.
And
Yeah.
the other big gripe I have with HR systems is we get good managers by fluke. You promote 10 people and two people turn out to be good managers, the other seven will be uh, average managers, and then
Mm,
one will be a bad manager.
yeah.
And so only two managers, employees will be happy and motivated. So how do
Mm,
you really find, uh, apart from achievement, how do you know which people will make good managers,
mm,
frontline managers, people who manage the frontline employees, the first line managers?
yeah.
What kind of people should you promote that will add to the culture of that organization?
Right. So such important and valid thing you said. Today, actually, I was going through this HBR's article where they talked about the competency, the kind of competencies that we usually look at leaders may not always be the right one, because we look at confidence. Confidence doesn't mean it's like competent, so
Right.
that kind of a thing. And so many things like ethical leadership, genuine, compassionate leader. They are usually like, they don't stand out in the crowd. They are very humble. They will like, so I think you raised a very valid point. Yeah, you have something
Yeah,
more.
and I think now with hybrid models coming in or remote
Mm,
working coming
mm,
in, the kind of managers you need will be different kind of managers itself.
true, true.
So we're too much concentrating on the tools Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. What should we use?
Yeah.
Rather than what, and maybe it's also a product of how it suddenly came in.
Mm,
But a
mm.
lot of uh, so I have a friend in London who said he came across a first time a case of a manager saying, "I quit because I can't manage remote workers."
Oh, okay. That's
The
interesting.
manager understood that he doesn't have
Mm,
the competence, he or she doesn't
yeah.
have the competence for managing a remote team, the
Mm,
kind of competence, and is not being effective. Or rather than not quitting, was offered a role where he or
mm,
she was being offered as a manager of a remote
mm,
team. And then
mm.
what don't remember whether he or she, but they kind of didn't take the offer because they realized I can't manage remote workers. They had realized in the last 2 years
Mm,
they want they're more comfortable with face to face
right.
management. And so the kind of skills, competence, high, whatever hybrid skills, hybrid
Mm,
working skills
yeah.
is uh, will will I think keep discovering more
Mm,
and more facets of that also.
yeah. Yeah. True. True. Um, what is an unfulfilled dream of yours?
Unfulfilled dream. I have no nothing really unfulfilled. I'm not. Don't really have dreams per se.
You don't dream? Are you saying you don't dream, or? Uh,
No, I mean I literally dream, but as a uh, unfulfilled dream, I just want to see both my daughters doing well, uh, whatever they want to do,
mhm,
uh, and be happy.
mhm.
I
So
think
one
that's.
is doing journalism, and the other one.
Other one hasn't decided what she do. She's in class. She's giving her class 12 boards exams right now.
I see. I see. Oh, okay. Yeah, board exams. Right. Okay.
So she's probably thinking political science or something. I guess they'll figure out. We all
Mm,
figured out.
mm.
We didn't
Yeah.
know. We explored. They'll also explore. They'll find out things that they
Yeah.
want to do. The
Yeah.
one who's doing journalism, is now thinking of, uh, you know, getting into advertising or marketing,
Mm, mm.
copywriting specifically.
Right.
So I said, go give Micah. You got to study
Uh,
for it.
yeah.
She's so busy. She was interning from in ET for the last 7-8 months.
Hmm.
So she's so busy with it that kind of she'll say, okay, next year, I'll see you next year.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Great. So I have a couple of questions. In the sense like short, very crisp. So let's say I'm writing your biography. If let's say I supposedly I'm writing your biography, what is that one trait or quality you want me to highlight about you?
I'm a knowledge seeker.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll read anything and everything. Um, I devour everything printed and now on the phone. So
Hmm.
I read about quantum physics, I read about astrophysics, I read about environment science, climate change. Uh,
Hmm.
but factual things rather than too much philosophical things.
Hmm. So you have variety of interests in terms of reading genre. You have like different kind of, interests.
Yeah, I mean, in fiction, it's from science fiction to Harry Potter
Hmm.
to uh, anything. Marvel movies.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, I'm a little bit nerdy and geeky that way.
Yeah. Okay. And what are your hobbies like? Apart from this knowledge thing that you mentioned, what are the things that you love doing?
When I was growing up, I liked to sketch.
Sketch.
So,
Oh, okay. Hmm.
but haven't really got back to it. Once in a while, I'll draw something, basically portraits, or really now it's out of practice and so on.
Hmm.
Whenever it comes out, it's like I'm not happy with it. So
So when was the last time you drew, you sketched?
I don't know, a couple of years ago, I think.
Okay, okay. You don't feel like doing it?
it, I, there's too much effort.
Mm, okay. One word, when you look back at your journey, right, so far, one word that comes to your mind about you.
What is that word for something that happens by chance?
Fluke.
No, no, no. The word from Sri Lanka's earlier word. I forget, but things that you look back and you see a lot of chance encounters or things that happened by chance.
You don't want to acknowledge yourself for that,
No, I
or
mean,
huh.
I was in the uh, I did stuff, but I really haven't planned, but I didn't really have any plan.
Hmm.
So I didn't say I would do this and I did that, I would do this or did that. So whenever there's a path opened, I kind of said, let's try it.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. So you took chances? Are you saying that?
Yeah. Without
Hmm.
analyzing it too much.
Hmm.
There was always this thing that everything will work out.
Hmm.
I don't need to do. I didn't want to do too much ROI risk benefit
Hmm.
analysis. So I said, if this, everything will be okay. There was this somewhere this optimism in me that
Hmm.
if I try something new, things will work out.
Right. And what is that something new you want to try out now at this stage in your life?
Let's see whatever comes my way then.
Okay, the path. You're not standing on a crossroad right now, like which path to take or something like that.
Not right now. I mean, whenever it happens, I'll see.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, okay. One thing about you that we don't know and you haven't shared with anyone.
The only physical sport I've played in, or uh, I did judo for 3 years,
Really? Wow.
from class 5 to class 8.
Hmm. And you didn't
After that,
continue.
after that, I haven't done anything much physical. I wasn't into sports at all too much.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Interesting. Are you scared of anything?
I don't know. wild dogs on the street.
Okay.
I mean, there are these packs out here sometimes. And I mean, they'll chase these cars, and I'm like, I hope they're not going to come out and bite me. Although that's irrational because I had dogs when I was growing up.
Okay. Okay. Right. Anything that you always wanted to share publicly, but you held yourself back?
Not really. I'm a little. So if you see on tweet chats, I won't say very politically correct things. I will say things as they are.
Call a spade. That way?
Things like, people will say, we should, listen to employees. I said, most people don't listen to employees.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
So rather than shoulds, I kind of say what is happening, and this whole digital transformation, whatever is happening, skills are not being updated. So you're not helping your employees transform digitally, although you are transforming your systems, processes, business models digitally.
Yeah.
Most people are kind of saying, oh, these middle managers can't pick up skills. You can't generalize like that.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest people on Twitter that I know are the 40 to 55 people age range. The senior people.
Yeah.
So that's there. That this whole assumption that, and there's another pet peeve, this whole ageism thing. People like, oh, we can't hire. This whole job descriptions, like 7 to 14 years experience wanted. That gets my goat. Why? I mean, in the US, this would be illegal.
Yeah. Right. And for females, one more added: male candidates are required. In some cases, it's like this.
No, unless it is a receptionist, only females required.
Yeah, that is so true. I think we are very aligned in the way you're thinking. So yeah, I'm loving this thing. So we are almost nearing our time. So what is your advice for youngsters or even people who would like to be an influencer or an expert like you? What advice you have for them?
First of all, depends on what you want to be an influencer in. If you want to be an influencer in fashion or lifestyle, it's very easy. You dress up and you take pictures and post it on Instagram and use nice hashtags which many people will see, and hopefully and be consistent in it. Wear different outfits every day, and hopefully some fashion brand will, after you build up 20,000, 40,000 followers, will say, okay, can you be a brand ambassador or something? So I have a cousin of mine who does that.
Okay.
She's a total fashion influencer. Photography enthusiasts are also kind of anything visual, anything that can be shared visually. Instagram is now the de facto. Then there is the whole. There are these American channels that react to Indian movies or Indian content, and they have built, because they really understood that Indians are the biggest, demographic in the world. But otherwise, this whole, it's to find a unique way of saying. Uh, so there was this whole people would analyze or review movies. So there were, I mean, Bollywood and cricket are the two big other content areas that people talk about. So people would talk about movie reviews, and then suddenly this guy comes up and he writes movie reviews in cartoon forms with a very funny take or something, and generally poking fun at the movie for its ridiculousness or something. And then you suddenly realize he's doing the same thing as people with, people would write, except that he's drawing stick figures and poking fun at movies.
Yeah.
So you just have to find a way you're comfortable in and your own voice, so that people say, oh, what has he or she got to say about it? Because everybody's saying this, but you look forward to certain people's takes on it because they are such different or unique in their own way. Even it's the same domain, it's movies.
Yeah.
For example, there's this Hollywood-based channel called Pitch Meeting, where they analyze. One guy acts as this guy who's taken a script to a producer who's also played by him. And it's about a movie that has already been released. And he kind of says, and then this happens, and the producer asks, but how can this happen if that already happened? So they kind of talk about the ridiculousness of movie scripts by this really funny dialogue between this guy acting as himself, the same guy portraying the guy with the script and guy with who's producing the movie. So it's hilarious.
Yeah. So you're talking about creative expressions, like different kinds of one has to find according to their own taste and preference and what audience they want to cater to, right? Okay, that's wonderful.
You have to do it consistently. So unless it is your own voice, you can't maintain that consistency.
Yeah, that's true. And what is your wish for the new world that is being created now post-pandemic? What is your wish?
I wish we could do something about the climate.
Climate, okay.
I mean, it's scary. I think our children and grandchildren, unless we really change something, will inherit a really bad world. And I think that's the biggest scare. You asked me what's the biggest scare. Like, when we are no longer there, 2050 or something, if we keep going like this, everybody talks a lot about, we had World Environment Day yesterday or something, but nothing is actually drastically changing.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin mining, it takes huge amount of power, generates heat, which I'm not sure where. There are these tech guys who really don't think too much about the effects of what they're doing. So, Facebook thought it was connecting the world, but it ended up splintering the world. And so at some level, there has to be, technology has to be, before being released, there has to be some thought about what are the pros and cons. So a lot of technology companies are now hiring philosophers. Think about the morality, long-term effects of technology.
Wow.
Not all of them, some of them.
Hmm. That's
once
a good
you
move.
are making money.
Yeah, that's a good one. You mentioned about the challenge that a freelancer or an independent consultant faces. What is your message to the organizations so that because independent consultants are rich in terms of knowledge, the wisdom that they bring in, but because of these challenges, many of them they give up and they are unable to walk into that path joyfully. So, what is your message for the organizations?
One is the organization has to really, uh, again, depends on who you engage with in the organization. If you're engaging with the CEO, the
Mm.
organization falls in line.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I was talking to this HR tech person, and he has a small division in his company in which he provides manpower to on contract to companies, and one company he gets his payment in 7.5 days,
Mm.
or at least 7 days or something. And the CFO said, "You are the only company I pay in 7 days because my CEO asked me to pay you in 7 days. So,
Mm.
everybody else I pay in 45 days, 60 days."
Mm.
And so if you're engaging with the CEO and you have some kind of really understanding and there's a partnership, then things fall in line. Otherwise, there's this new emergence of platforms that bring together uh, independent consultants, and where you can bid for projects and the platforms will take care of
Yeah.
do the value add for billing, etc.,
Mm.
and uh,
Track of that. Mm.
keep a portion of the fee. So
Mm.
you're kind of willing to outsource the headache to them to follow up and get the money.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Are you talking about Upwork, Fiverr, all of that?
there's some Indian ones also which are with
Mm.
more high end consulting. So
Okay.
Flexing It is one,
Okay.
and there's another one called Noble House,
I see.
where it's more knowledge based. Upwork and all, I'm not sure what kind of work is it. I think they're more transactional kind of work.
Uh, it's for freelancers only.
Right.
So again, same, they take care of the things that way. I haven't personally done the work, but I've heard of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I was heard about it, but I have a feeling that the quality of work is very
Mm.
transactional.
Mm. Okay.
Because Amazon launched Mechanical Turk like
Okay.
back in 99, 2000,
Mm.
uh, where people could bid for things like, I will check your code,
Mm.
and you have to fill this form so many times,
Mm.
uh, and so, so you could do it in 15 minutes and get
Mm.
$5 for it or $10 for it, where
Okay.
somebody in Bangladesh or Philippines can compete with at the same rate for somebody in US.
Mm.
These Flexing It and Noble House are more focused on management consulting projects, uh, and which are fairly intensive. So you probably can't deliver it everything virtually. You have to
Be
do it.
present there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. We have like almost taken more time. Sorry for that. Um,
Feel free to edit it.
no, it would be my pleasure. One word about the interview. I mean, not interview, like conversation. One word. How did you feel?
Felt natural.
Okay.
You've asked lots of questions which I have never thought about. So
Okay.
it's thought provoking also.
Thank you. Um, anything else you want to say before we wind up? Um,
No. Have a great day.
Thank you. Well, I would definitely like to thank you for giving your time. And
Thank
what I
you.
felt is that you are a powerhouse of knowledge and wisdom. that is the essence which I've captured throughout this conversation. And I think that it's so important to preserve this wisdom. I don't know how we can do it. This conversation will remain throughout in my channel, and I'm sure people who would watch will highly benefit. And yeah, I mean, thank you very much. And I appreciate your humility because despite of having so much, you are very humble and very, very authentic to the point. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.